a night where Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon combined for 11 points. A night where Cale Makar sets a record with 6 points in a game for an Avalanche defenseman. Where Georgiev shows up, scratch that, 7 shows up on, well, the right side of the ledger for the Avalanche this time. They hammer the Sharks 7-3. Before that went final, the Avs come down from the top rope and they announce a massive trade. Chris McFarland has pushed all of his chips to the middle. This is win now mode. Fuck them picks. Fuck them prospects is what C-Mac just told the entirety of the league. The Avalanche acquire forward Brock Nelson, member of Team USA, former assistant captain of the New York Islanders. Center Brock Nelson, the number one forward on the board right now, if you take Mikko Rantanen off of that. And forward William DeFore from the New York Islanders in exchange for defenseman Oliver Shillington, a first-round pick in the 2026 NHL entry draft, and a conditional third-round pick in the 2028 draft, as well as Avs forward prospect Callum Ritchie. Brock Nelson is the newest member of the Colorado Avalanche. I don't give a damn what happened in the game tonight. We are starting with that bombshell.
Yeah, man, that's an aggressive trade, and I am leaning for the better. I mean, they are trying to win right now, and if you are trying to win right now, then it's a great deal. It's a great deal. Now, look, Brock Nelson, like you said, Raj, we just saw him in the Four Nations. He did not record a single point in his 3 Four Nations games. Averaged about 16 minutes of ice time. 4 Nations game. No points in 4 Nations games for Brock Nelson. Actually, that first game, he played under 10 minutes. So maybe more like a 14 minute time on ice per game in the Four Nations. Look, he's career high 37 goals scored in the 21-22 season. Followed that up next year with 36 goals, 34 goals the following year, which was last year. He has 20 goals so far this season. He has the best face-off percentage of his career. He's north of 50%, and it's the best face-off percentage of his career. Man, Casey Middlestat's your 3C now. One thing on the broadcast tonight, I didn't realize. I knew that Ryan Lindgren and Casey Middlestat were good friends. They played at Minnesota together. I didn't realize they were like best friends. And I'm hearing this, and I'm like, oh, Val's back. This is unlocking Casey Middlestat. He's great friends with Ryan Lindgren. All right, I can live with Casey Middlestat at 2C. The Avs couldn't, apparently. They're upgrading no matter what. Casey Middlestat overall this season did not show enough. And Brock Nelson, here we go.
It's an unbelievable string of events to happen this late at night. They still have a little bit of space left. I don't know if they're done spring. Some details on this trade again. So Oliver Shillington has now been flipped to the Anaheim Ducks for future considerations. That was a throwaway. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of the deal. William DeFore he's kind of the same guy. He's a former 5th round pick. He's a UFA in 2029, but he's going to be assigned to the AHL. The 3rd round conditional pick only becomes part of this trade if the Avalanche both win the Stanley Cup this year and Brock Nelson plays at least half of the playoff games in a Stanley Cup championship this season. So that condition, if they make the trade and they win the cup, you go, yep, that's worth it. Doesn't matter. Here's the 3rd, here's the 1st, and here's Callum Ritchie. We will get to this game in a little bit. Like, we have to talk about Cale Makar. We have to talk about Nathan McKinnon. It's a Stanley Cup now favorite team. Mark my words, this trade makes Colorado a contender into a favorite. They took Winnipeg's number 1 trade target off the board. They took one of Dallas's number 1 trade targets off the board. It's a big time deal for the Avs, and they do have a propensity to sign these guys, which makes me think, I don't know if they're done spring. They like signing these players. I wonder if Casey Middlestat is still on the block.
That's true. That's true. Because I mean, Middlestat is 3C. You know, he's getting paid like a 2C, and now he's going to be your 3C. And that would, I mean, like I said, though, that would be weird. They just brought in his best friend, and Val's back, and this is all supposed to jolt Casey Middlestat, and it was kind of working. And now he's at best your third center, and at worst for him, if you don't like making plans to move, which not a lot of people do, especially away from, like you said, now a very legitimate Stanley Cup contender. That's going to suck for Casey Middlestat if he has to leave all that and grab some U-Hauls and all that. Um, that might be where we're headed, or he's just, we hope, a very good 2C or 3C. I did wonder about Jack Drury in that role overall. Always struck me as more of a fourth line center. So man, they really are stacked up the middle right now. But like you said, we'll see. Maybe there is another move. Maybe Casey Middlestat will go somewhere else. But the price for Brock Nelson, it's an expensive price.
Yep, big swings cost big money.
He's an expiring contract. He's a free agent at the end of the year. We're seeing how that is going in Carolina with Mikko Rantanen, acquiring an expiring contract and the fear of, it being a pure rental and you don't win a cup and it's all for naught. So, like, they do like to extend their guys. Brock Nelson is 33 years old, so there's still a few years left in the tank for him. He could be absolutely a candidate to be extended. And I'm sure when you're giving up a first-round pick, whether it's 26 or 27, but a first-round pick and Cal Ritchie, like, that's an investment. But hey, you have the best defenseman in the world. You have the first or second best forward in the world. They're in their prime. You go for it. It's just what you do.
I like the deal spring. It makes them bigger, it makes them better on the face-off dot, and it gives them a true two-way center. This guy is, dude, he's really good 5-on-5 in his own zone. And Brock Nelson probably has, I'd say at the most 3 years of very good hockey left in him. Maybe it's 2, but I think 3 years of really good hockey. He is a pending unrestricted free agent. There is a chance that he gets extended, but they would have to move on from a player. And that's the reason why I bring up Casey Middlestat there. At 33 years of age and 6'4" and 210 pounds, you would think he's not very fleet of foot. He can keep up with the Avs pace. Like, he is a zone entry producing centerman, which is what the Avs are built on. But typically they're built on players that are about 6 foot and 185 pounds creating those zone entries. This gives you another Val Nichushkin type of body on the front end. I don't know what an extension would look like for him, but right now his market value is probably at $6.5 million. I don't know. I'm just off the top of my head. It's probably around $6.5 million is my guess. Maybe $7 million at the very most on an average annual basis. They can't fit that in right now unless they move someone. He did turn down an extension from the Islanders at one point, if I'm correct. I see you, Mish. Yeah, you're 100% right there. He did turn down a midseason extension. You might be able to keep him, but you have to move guys out the door. I love this deal for the Avs. Look at how different this team is now as compared to what it was coming off of the Stanley Cup championship. Chris McFarland has basically overhauled this entire roster outside of Devon Taves, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, and like Arturi Lehkonen. You can throw Nichushkin in there too, but Nichushkin's missed so much time that I almost don't throw him into that group.
No, this is crazy. I don't know if I've ever seen a team in any of the 4 major sports. I don't know if I've ever seen a team overhaul with 4+ big time moves to just change the makeup of your roster. I don't know if I've ever seen any. I haven't. It's the quantity. I mean, yeah, the like in the NBA, the Luka trade was shocking. That was one trade. I mean, we've had 4+ on this team, all of large significance, big time players, key players. Like Scott Wedgwood might be a backup, but we saw the other night that's a key role to have. All of it, top to bottom. I've never seen anything like this, and they might not be done, and there might be another move as well to be made. This is fantasy hockey at its best. This is the NHL video game. You know, you're in season trading at its finest. This is all of that, and I've seen the memes. I'll say it. They're going Les Snead and the Rams. Hey, our coworkers, it got them a Super Bowl. What did they do? What did our coworkers do a couple years ago? They said, "Fuck them picks." And that's what the Avs are doing right now. They're saying that.
I love it. I love it, man. Count your lucky stars that there's a GM here that's willing to do that. That is what. Look at the amount of trades that Chris McFarland has made this year. It's nuts. I talk about them overhauling the roster over 2 years. He's overhauled the roster in 2 months. In the middle of the season.
It's unbelievable. I mean, has Chris McFarland, how much has he slept in the past few months? My man must just be on the phone constantly, texting, calling, checking, people checking with him. Okay, Brock Nelson, back to him. Yeah, and you saw Valerian Nichushkin tonight, net front on I think it was the first power play goal, the Makar goal. What that 6'4" frame of Nichushkin does there, and he's really the only one they have. And even when they had Mikko Rantanen, who does have that frame and does have that size, he doesn't really play that way. And when you watch the New York Islanders play, like they're one of those dumb, gummy, clog the neutral zone, get net front, just be physical. It's not sexy. It's just size and positioning and defensive schemes. And the Avs lack that. They've been built on a lot of speed and they're light. And now Brock Nelson adds some of that size, that physicality. He's not as athletic or as good of a skater as Nichushkin, but he is savvy, and the face-off capability as well. The 52% clip that he is 52.8 actually.
I love 52, that,
and it's his best mark since the 1920 season where he was 51.8. He hovers around 50% his entire career, but this is his best season. He's a savvy player. He's smart. He's big. He's physical. He's got hands. Not the fastest skater, but they need some size. They need some veteran savvy, and Brock Nelson brings it.
And you know what else it brings them, man? It brings them he's 33, so for all intents and purposes, he's an old guy without a cup, right? And that matters in this league. There's a lot of times where you see the old guy without a cup bring them to the next level. I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat saying Mikko to the Stars. Where are we hearing this? I'm looking through Twitter right now. If you guys can, is it Elliot Friedman? Friedman says, okay, something else tonight. Hearing talks are intensifying to send Mikko Rantanen into the Dallas Stars. With this trade, man, I don't care.
Jesus Christ.
That is a collision course for the Avalanche to take on Mikko Rantanen on the road in round 1 and send the guy home. I think it makes Dallas better, but if what we've learned is true from his stay in Carolina, he does not impact a team that doesn't already have a megastar on it. And Dallas does not have a megastar on their roster. So if that's the case, yeah, it makes Dallas good. It makes them scary. He's going to cost hardly anything because I'm sure there's going to be salary retained in that deal if Dallas is able to get him. Does he re-sign with the Stars? Who knows? But tell me the Nathan MacKinnon, tell me the Cale Makar on that team. Miro Heiskanen right now is injured, and there is no one close to Nathan MacKinnon as a forward on that roster. They are very, very similar to Carolina at this point.
Okay, well, what a show. What a show we are doing tonight. The Avs winning 7-3 over the Sharks is just a complete afterthought, as we have the Brock Nelson trade, giving up a first and Cal Ritchie. My gosh. Like those were assets, I'm thinking, hey, you could use those to get Sidney Crosby. And Brock Nelson is not Sidney Crosby. But obviously Crosby was unrealistic and was never going to happen. He wants to retire a Penguin. I didn't talk much about Brock Nelson. I'm a sucker. Ryan O'Reilly was kind of catching my eye because I remember him winning that cup with the Blues, the history he has with the Avs in his own right. He's in those freaking insurance commercials or whatever, or no, investment with commercials with UC Soros. Ryan O'Reilly's big time. I'm a sucker for the big time. No goals, says UC Soros, as Ryan O'Reilly asks him about his goals, his future goals. But Brock Nelson, he flies under my radar. Although lo and behold, I mean, the dude's a near 40 goal scorer over the past couple of years. He plays for the Islanders.
On a team that can't score.
Yeah, he plays for the Islanders, a team that always struggles offensively. But he's unheralded. He is efficient, and that size is very important, and a sneaky goal scorer. So, yeah, it's not as sexy as Ryan O'Reilly. It's probably the better player, though.
Wait, Brock Nelson over Ryan O'Reilly?
Oh, yeah.
Brock Nelson.
Ryan O'Reilly is a championship. He's proven he can win a championship.
True, but Brock Nelson right now is 2 times the hockey player Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, O'Reilly's
hit a wall. I like him, and I think he'd be a good fit as a depth center. I thought he would be a really good asset for the Avs to go out and trade. Brock Nelson, at this point in his career, is miles ahead of what Ryan O'Reilly is currently.
Yeah, just flies under the radar because he's a New York Islander. And so then now this Mikko Rantanen trade. And Raj, I mean, we were thinking coming into tonight over the past few shows, probably I would have said the likely first round matchup due to the Kaprizov injury for the Wild. And the Avs tonight, the Avs were healthy for damn near the first time this season. Manson was back. Everybody played except for Gabe Landeskog, and we had that today. We can talk about that at some point, perhaps. The likely first round matchup is that, Colorado will pass Minnesota, and it will be Dallas and Colorado in the first round. It will be Mikko versus the Avs. If this is what happens, if this actually goes through, Mikko and the Avs will play in the first round of the playoffs.
That's probably what's going to happen, man. Again, I don't think Mikko to Dallas is the worst case scenario. I think it makes them better. I don't think it makes them unbeatable. I really do believe the Dallas Stars are very similar to the Carolina Hurricanes. They are eerily similar to who Carolina is. So if Mikko Rantanen couldn't thrive in Carolina without a star next to him, show me the stud in Dallas. Tell me who it is on that team. Did Jason Robertson take the step forward this year? No, he hasn't. Wyatt Johnston is in trade rumors because they don't know if they can re-sign him in the offseason or if someone's going to qualifying offer him as an RFA. Show me the stud in Dallas. So if it was true that Mikko can't raise all boats in Carolina, why would it be true in Dallas? Why?
Well,
I think he's a great player, but it doesn't automatically change that way. And with the Avs getting Brock Nelson, man, think about this. Think about this. They have added Carolina's leading scorer and maybe without a doubt, their fastest player. They have added a top pairing defenseman from another team and made him either a second or a third pairing defenseman on this team. They have added a former team's number 1 goaltender, and in 25 games with the Avalanche has more wins than he did in 2.5 seasons with San Jose. And then to boot, they took a player in Brock Nelson, who is the leading scorer in New York, and put him on the team.
Can I tell you what, too? I thought Ryan Lindgren looked good tonight. Yes, his clearance, his backhand clearance attempt in the D zone on that penalty kill in the first period does ultimately kind of lead to the first Sharks goal of the night. But outside of that, when I saw him skating in the neutral zone, tape to tape passing, like Ryan Lindgren looked, he's a better skater than I really thought, based on some of the concerns that I was hearing about where he's at physically. Lindgren looked like a good little skater tonight. He can move the puck for a guy who, has been billed as more of a physical defenseman despite being 6 foot tall. Lindgren looked like a fit tonight. So they're hitting. Every trade so far from what I've seen is hitting, and I expect Brock Nelson to be nothing short of that as well. And I'm curious to see, back to Mikko Rantanen now, what the return is. What will Dallas have to give up? Is it Wyatt Johnston? Because they gave up Natchez and Jack Drury. So is this a couple of NHL-ready players, guys playing for the Stars right now? Are we talking picks, prospects? Especially now knowing that he is absolutely possibly just a rental. Like, the idea of extending him is a question at best.
So like, is Dallas going to pay him $14 million?
Probably not. This is a rental, probably.
It's insane. I don't know what's going on here. It is, Springer, think about this. It is fucking crazy that Cale Makar had a 6-point night and he paired it with 5 points from Nathan MacKinnon. And I don't want to talk about it for a single second. Like, I think it's a disservice to all of you to talk about a historic night from, like, the best defenseman of our lifetimes right now. People 30 years of age or younger, right? Like, he'll eventually be in the conversation of, like, Nicholas Lidstrom and Ray Bourque and Bobby Orr. Like, that's who that guy is. And he just had arguably his best game ever as a pro. And it's a throwaway topic because the Avalanche and their GM just went, it's on the table. Rantanen to Dallas it makes for great theater. It makes for great theater. And now, you know what? I think you said it, Spring, that this was the path you wanted. You wanted Colorado to go to Dallas and then go to Winnipeg. And I called you crazy. And you know what? Now I want it too.
Well, now it's a money matchup for the NHL. Now you can, the ads, the promos, the hype. You can sell this series. This becomes a marquee series. This probably becomes the marquee first-round series. Mikko Rantanen on his third team. Who had Mikko Rantanen playing for 3 teams this year?
What was the over-under on that? 2.5, over 2.5, paying out at plus 6,000.
And the Carolina Hurricanes here, again, when I talk about the return, I'm curious to see what Dallas gives up. I'm curious to see what Carolina gets. Can they break even? Can they break even on Natchez and Drury? And a second-round pick? Can they break even on that? Because Carolina, if they don't, they just completely screwed their season up.
I mean, they would have screwed their future up. I tweeted out earlier today, if I'm a Canes fan and they flip Mikko Rantanen after giving up Marty Natchez, Jack Drury, and a draft pick for, even if it's picks and prospects, I would burn Lenovo Center to the ground if I was a Canes fan. Because what are you doing at that point? What are you doing?
Who is our GM? Tulsky? Eric Tulsky? Is that his name?
Eric Tulsky and Tom Dundon. The ownership groups out in Carolina are just they're 1 in a million out there with the Panthers and the Canes.
People were praising this Tulsky guy, like, oh, what a rising star, what a aggressive and savvy trade to go get Mikko Rantanen. Surely they have a long-term extension in mind or on the cusp, on the brink with Mikko Rantanen. No, they just took a chance. They didn't have any inclination that they could extend Mikko Rantanen. I don't know how you make that trade without either A, having some sort of a predetermined agreement with Mikko and his agent, or B, just knowing, no, we are going to get to $14 million. We are going to give Mikko an offer that he cannot refuse. But apparently that was not the case. So I don't know why you make that trade if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, but guess who wins? Guess who really wins in all of this? It's the Colorado Avalanche. Because, like you said, Raj, even with Mikko Rantanen on the Dallas Stars, it doesn't scare me. How many goals and points did Mikko have with Carolina? Now he's going to Dallas. He apparently
reportedly.
was struggling to adapt. He was shocked, remember? He's shocked to go to Carolina, so this is affecting his mental state. Well, now his mental state gets affected again, and he's playing with a similar cast of characters. Sebastian Aho, Jason Robertson, very similar. It's all very similar. This doesn't scare me. So Carolina loses. Dallas gets better, but nothing that scares me. The Avs got Natchez Drury and a second-round pick and have made all of their other moves. The Avs are the huge winners here.
Dude, I'm so excited tonight. Joey goes, Raj is so pumped he's gonna wear his skates to bed tonight. I might go grab my twig and put it in bed next to Caitlin. She's gonna be pissed off when she wakes up next to it. But yeah, I feel great about this. I thought the Avs going into tonight felt like they were an unbeatable hockey team, and they just got better. It blows my mind that they found a way to do this. Spring, I have video from the locker room if you want to hear from Nathan MacKinnon or Cale Makar, because I know Nate talked about Brock Nelson. You want to hear from the assistant captain who had the second best game of the night with 5 points?
Let's hear from him.
What more can you say about what he does over there?
Yeah, just amazing. Tough to find a better player in this league. Playing half the game and doing what he does every night it's amazing, and it's fun to see every night.
Trade, I'm sure you guys heard Brock Nelson traded in the middle of the game. Just what are your kind of initial reactions to getting a player like that?
Yeah, I know Brock from over the years. We have the same strength coach, so we've been at the same camps, and I'm really excited. He's an amazing player, and yeah, I'm really happy.
What are your initial impressions when you see a trade like that about your GM going all in and showing confidence with the team?
We have to. Yeah, this is our years. It's up to us, but yeah, there's no other way.
There's no other way. He would go on to say, we're not rebuilding yet. And I think it matters not only that Chris MacFarland has made the roster better, just from a pure pen and paper standpoint. The message he has sent to this locker room is, guys, you're my guys. Like, I'm likely not going to be here when you guys retire. So let's go do this right now. Right? Both of us are not going to be here. Whether it's me, Chris MacFarland, you, Nathan MacKinnon. 10 years from right now, both of us are probably gone and either away from this team or out of the league and retired. So let's go win this thing right now. We believe in you now, and we believe in you over the next 2, 3, 4 years, where your prime continues to be you and Cale Makar combining for 11 points in a single game.
Nathan MacKinnon is 29 years old. He will be 30 years old at the start of next season. So you are starting to – now, Nate's one of those players who's going to be very effective for the next several years. But, the closer to 32, 33, like Brock Nelson is, 34, the speed, one of Nathan MacKinnon's best assets, might start to go just a little bit. So, he's 29. Number 29 is 29 years old. Now's the time. The 26 or 27, the 2026 or 2027 first round pick, MacKinnon will be 30, 31, 32 years old. And those picks take at least a year. I mean, at least 1 year, at least at bare minimum. I mean, you're looking at least 2, 3 years until those picks even make it to the league. And then a year or two beyond that until they start to figure the league out. Yeah, screw those picks. It doesn't matter. I think they will want to extend Brock Nelson because it's not just a this year window. It's a next couple years window. When you're giving up these picks, the first, whether it's 26 or 27, the first round pick and Cal Ritchie is a hefty price. It is a hefty price.
It is. It is a big price.
So you want to maximize the return. You mentioned, we talked about it earlier in the show, and we got a lot of people coming in here watching between the pipes. So we'll reset this just a little bit. Will they move Casey Middlestat in the next 12 plus hours to clear up some cap space for the offseason, flexibility for the offseason to extend Brock Nelson? It's very clear that they are choosing Brock Nelson over Casey Middlestat, certainly from a lineup perspective at the very least. We expect Nelson to be the second center, Middlestat to go down to 3. Or is there another option? They just acquired Ryan Lindgren. Would they look to move Josh Manson, who's a $4.5 million cap hit? Could they look to move Sam Girard finally? If they are, if there is an idea here to clear just a little money out to make a Brock Nelson extension better, or do you just wait? Maybe you just wait to the offseason to do this too. But again, we think that maybe there's another move in the offing for the Avs. Like that's very possible here in the next 12 plus hours.
Certainly could be. Let's bring in the voice of your Colorado Avalanche. You're not going to see him right now, but you will hear him. Connor McGahey. Connor, you hear us? Connor, I hear you. Do you hear me? Going once, going twice.
I don't hear Connor at all. Is he at Ball Arena?
Connor is in his car actively driving right now. So I'm trying to see if he
Is he on the
can
phone?
can get his microphone. Yeah, he's on his phone right now. Nothing.
This is the first phone guest.
Can you hear me now?
I got Connor right
There
now.
we
Connor,
go.
Can you hear us?
Sorry, I was trying to do it through the truck and it wasn't working. So we got it. We're fine.
No
Everything's
worries.
fine.
I wish I could talk to you about a historic night from Cale Makar or, 11 combined points from him and from Nathan McKinnon, but
Well,
none
what
of
do you
that
got?
matters
Time
right
limits
now.
on this show? You got time limits on this show?
We certainly don't. I could go until 3 a.m. this morning, but we got to start with the massive trade. Brock Nelson to the Avalanche. They move on from a first, a conditional third, and Callum Ritchie to bring in the Islanders center. Your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm not sure I could love it anymore. I think it's fantastic. Brock Nelson, one of my barometers for acquiring players is, and I did this with Ryan Lindgren too. If I hated him on the other team, I love him on my team. I did not like playing against Ryan Lindgren on the New York Rangers. I never liked playing against Brock Nelson on the New York Islanders because he always scored against the Avalanche. And if you're a perennial 20-goal scorer on the New York Islanders or the New York Champions, as Paul Bissonnette calls them, then that means that you have something. Jared Bednar just said as much. We heard it on a post-game show on Altitude Sports Radio. He said he's got size, he can skate. And people say, well, he's too old and he's too slow at 33 years old. No, the guy can actually fly, and I think he fits into the way that the Avs want to play very well. And a guy who can find the net, 20 goals, 23 assists so far this year for the New York Islanders. And the number one second-line center on the market. And I don't mind giving up a first-round pick and Cal Ritchie in the third. I think it's great for CMAC to do and show that, hey, we're not messing around. We're not going one toe into the pool. We're a full-on tuck and cannonball and can opener into the deep end, and we're trying to stay competitive in the Western Conference. And if Mikko Rantanen ends up with the Dallas Stars, you're going to need a player like Brock Nelson there. But the Avalanche have almost completely overturned their roster, and with every single trade that they have made, the one question you ask, did the Avalanche get better? And the answer every single time with all of these deals is yes.
Connor, does it worry you at all that he's potentially a rental? Would your expectation be that they will extend him and that Brock Nelson is a part of this thing for the next couple of years, given what they gave up to get him, which is a lot of future capital?
Yeah, and I know that the modus operandi of the Avalanche in the past has not been rentals. I think that sort of changed last year, with Yakov Trenin, Brandon Duhaime, and Sean Walker. All three of them got better options elsewhere. But I think when you have an opportunity to get a player like Brock Nelson, you take that risk. And then, as Nathan McKinnon said tonight, the pressure is on the players to perform. You've been given the tools. Now it's up to you to create a masterpiece. And so I have no problem with that. It's always better to acquire players that have some term to them or are RFAs. The Dufour prospect that came over with Brock Nelson is another right-handed shot, forward with size. So you're keeping the cupboard a little bit stocked there, so it's not going to be completely barren by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't know. I mean, you would think that, like, take Carolina, for example. You would think that they would have talked to the Rantanen campaign and would have had at least some idea that they'd be able to get a deal done. Apparently not. And I don't know if that's taken place between C-Mac and Brock Nelson, but you would like to think if you give up probably your top prospect in a first-round pick, there's at least some notion as whether a player would be wanting to sign an extension. And look, when you have the cap go up, and when you have which it's going to next year, and a team like Colorado needs the cap to go up, and you have a player who's a little bit older, it's not going to be a huge contract. So it actually could work out very well for the Avs.
Now, the question is, would you have to move out a current player to make space for a contract extension for Brock Nelson?
That's entirely possible, and none of us are in those rooms or on those calls, and so we don't know. But you can just try and do basic math and see if that is in fact the case, and how it plays out. I mean, you've acquired now two different centers in two different deals in Jack Drury and Brock Nelson. Drury, I think, has been wonderful. He's been exactly what the Avalanche have needed in the bottom six, and Brock Nelson will be exactly what they need in the top six. So it'll be up to them what they do with some of their other assets, and I think, Raj, that's very much a distinct possibility.
Connor, before we let you get out of here, I gotta hear what you thought about a historic night from Cale Makar, where he was as on top of his game as we've ever seen.
First defenseman to have 2+ goals and 4+ assists since 1986, when it was done by Paul Coffey. And Riker and I are in the building to watch it happen. And now Cale Makar is tied with Jack Eichel for 8th in the NHL in total points. So just let that sink in for a second. And with Kucherov, Draisaitl both getting points tonight in their respective games, I mean, Nathan MacKinnon has to keep the foot on the gas to win his first Art Ross trophy. I mean, it pretty much has to be multi-point nights going forward for Nathan MacKinnon. It's not a problem for him as he inches closer and closer to being the 100th player in the history of the National Hockey League to get to 1,000 points. So you have MacKinnon with 5, Cale Makar with a historic 6. Those are games that happen once in a generation. So I hope everybody was lucky enough to stay up a little bit later and watch it. And my preferred medium, listen to that piece of history from Cale Makar.
Connor, we appreciate you, brother. Drive safe, and we'll hear you on the call in a couple of days.
Sounds good, boys. Have fun tonight.
That is the voice of your Colorado Avalanche, Connor McGahey, reporting live from his Ford F-150 as he drives it home from Ball Arena, or at least I think that's what he drives.
All right, keeping our eyes out here also for, man, I've got to see this return for Mikko Rantanen. What the Dallas Stars are giving Carolina to get him, I'm furiously refreshing. And
it's almost assuredly future assets, right?
Considering he's a rental, yeah, I don't think that from a current NHL player perspective, I don't think they're going to get something on the level of Marty Necas and Jack Drury.
Imagine if the trade is Jason Robertson for Mikko Rantanen. The trade is 1-for-1.
I don't think Dallas would do that.
No, they shouldn't. It would be insane for them to do that.
Because they're going to want to maximize, the amount of better talent that they have to try to win what right now very well could be a collision course of a first-round matchup between Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, and the Colorado Avalanche, and Mikko Rantanen and the Dallas Stars. Oh, and I guess I should throw Brock Nelson in there too, the newest Av. Let's see here. I got updated odds to win the Stanley Cup. You ready for this?
I'm glad. I couldn't find those on my app. My book did not have updated odds.
Here we go. I got 2 co-favorites right now to win the Stanley Cup. Your 2 co-favorites are both from the Western Conference, each at plus 700. They are the Edmonton Oilers and
the Winnipeg Jets.
The Dallas Stars.
Whoa, okay. I'm assuming that number has probably tickled up a little bit considering there's rumors about Mikko going there.
I'm assuming that this is up in the last 15 minutes.
Man, dude, the Vegas odds hate Winnipeg.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Your team with the second best odds will be the defending champs from the East, the Florida Panthers at plus 750. And then you have the Avs and the Hurricanes. The Avs and the Hurricanes at plus 900. So maybe that's an indication that the Carolina is going to get something in return. Maybe the odds makers are expecting that Carolina is not going to completely eat shit in this confluence of transactions, first with the Avs and now with the Stars. But the Avs have, for all intents and they're top four. They're top four in terms of odds to win the Stanley Cup, according to, this is on DraftKings Sportsbook.
They should be up there. I really like that number. Oh, hey, I've got DMAC in the waiting room. Let's add him and see what he thinks about what the Avalanche did this evening trade-wise. We'll put a pin in that, Spring, in terms of the futures. DMAC, what is up, my man? Can you hear us, brother? Darren McKee going
We
once,
got a buffer.
going
We're
twice,
buffering.
going 3 times because he's on Ball Arena Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that Ball Arena Wi-Fi, man.
Springer, I like the odds boost. I think 900 is a little short for them. Plus 1200 is what they were before the trade.
Sure.
DMAC, can you hear us yet? Can't quite hear him yet. He's trying to figure out his audio.
He's getting set. He's in the on-deck circle right now. Taking a couple hacks.
I'll just wait for him to talk. Wait for him to talk. We'll see what he has to say about.
It looks like he's got a lot on his mind.
Don't know if you guys can hear me, but I can't hear you yet. Sometimes it kicks in, so I'm just going to be quiet for a little bit, and I'll start talking when I can see you guys. So I'll just sit here and nod for a little bit, but I'll be quiet.
Spring, yeah, we're still waiting on confirmation that Rantanen will in fact be going to Dallas. It seems as though that there's a lot of speed with that Carolina to the Stars. I just wonder what that return is going to be. Is it going to be Wyatt Johnston? Is it going to be multiple first-round picks over the next couple of years? Is it going to be something that allows Carolina to compete in the Eastern Conference this year? I don't know. I don't see it being that. And that's crazy to me that it's a team that's knocking on the door for all of these years. For the better part of a decade, the Carolina Hurricanes have been one guy away. And for them to trade him to another contender, which likely will not be giving up any pieces that can help you right now, makes no sense to me.
Absolutely.
Hey, guys, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just got to note that you could actually hear me. But I can't see or hear you, but I just got to know that you could hear me. So I am sorry to interrupt, but let me just give you a vibe of what's going on, and then I'll say goodbye. But the overall feeling behind the scenes here is pumped. I mean, pumped. Nate was pumped. Kale was pumped. I did walk past Casey Middlestad. I don't know if he's too pumped. Probably not. I saw Taves, who knows Brock Nelson, making an interesting phone call outside of the locker room. So I'm not sure if it was to Brock Nelson or not, but he's got a connection with them. The overall vibe amongst the hockey muggles is pumped. I mean, the whole vibe here is the Avs are going for it, and this is evidence, and kind of like forget those picks and don't worry about tomorrow. And there's also another vibe that they're not done. That perhaps, because I don't know, is Casey Middlestad really your ideal 3C? I mean, he just lost his job in the middle of the game. Some of the vibe did filter into the bench, but Cale Makar said he had no idea that it had happened until the game was over. But again, the overall vibe is very excited. The Avalanche have a practice tomorrow at 1 o'clock at Family Sports. And Chris McFarland will speak after that, and they're expecting Brock Nelson to be there at the practice. So you win 4 games in a row, you make a trade that proves that you're going for. Everybody is excited about it, and so some real positive vibes down here at Ball Arena. I'll say goodbye with that because, again, I can't see you or hear you, and maybe that's for the best. But I'll say goodbye here, and I've been following the coverage and we'll tune into it. But yeah, pretty excited behind the scenes here at Ball Arena. So with that, I'll say goodbye, fellas.
That's Darren McKee live from Ball Arena giving us the the feel in the locker room, and it should feel joyous that the Avs have made a trade like this. And I think he does make a good point, Spring. There's probably one player in that building that feels worse than Alexander Georgiev tonight. It's probably Casey Middlestat.
Well, so he's either getting demoted to 3C, which, hey, is not the end of the world. And I've talked about how, I mean, in today's NHL, and if you want to be a true Stanley Cup contender, your third line has to be a little pseudo version of a second line. Like you got to have a formidable third line nowadays. And not, some teams, the bottom teams in the league, a third line echoes more of a fourth line, right? You want it to be the other way around. You want a third line to mimic a second line and, have some talent, have some actual, like we saw when the Avs won the Stanley Cup, like Andre Burakovsky was on that third line, hitting some nice snipes, a legit goal scorer, at least at the time, on your third line. So if Casey Middlestat remains on this team, yes, it's a little kick in the nads in the moment, but, and who knows who could be on the way out. Maybe Ross Colton is on the way out. He hasn't been as good since the first couple months of the season, and then he broke that foot blocking that shot, which is obviously very unfortunate. Hasn't quite been the same player. Had like a 15-plus goalless drought, 15 games plus without a goal. Who knows? But look, Ross. I think Ross is a good player. I think he's a damn good third line player for sure. So if you got Middlestat and Colton, and whether it's Kiviranta or how maybe they go trade for Brad Marchand. That was something I was going to bring up on this damn show tonight.
You end up running out of room for players at this point.
I was going to talk a lot about Brad Marchand tonight because Chris Johnston of TSN this evening said that he thinks it's likely, doesn't mean it's going to happen, but he's I would say putting the odds at over 50% that Brad Marchand, who is on the expiring the final year of an expiring contract, that he would get traded to a Western Conference team, which would make sense. Boston would probably not want to, they like that guy. He's a huge part of that franchise. Send him to the Western Conference is what you would typically do. Man, that'd be a hell of a third line. Casey Middlestat, Ross Colton, Brad Marchand. Again, no offense to Yoel Kiviranta, who had a shorthanded goal and has a couple hat tricks this year, but let's really load this thing up. Or, back to the original point, if you're Casey Middlestat, yeah, maybe you're the one moved, and that's a bummer too, because all of a sudden this team is even better and looks even more a contender than they were 2 hours ago.
Yeah, we forget that the trade deadline isn't until 1 p.m. Mountain tomorrow, and there is still so much movement to be done over the next handful of hours, whether it's Mikko Rantanen going tonight or a handful of trades prior to 1 p.m. tomorrow. Trade deadline day is always crazy, and there's always little pieces that kind of get moved around, and the Avs can still tinker unless they move a big-time piece, and then that's another big swing, whether you decide to go out and get another second-pairing defenseman or add a winger like Brad Marchand, like we've been talking about for the past couple of days. At some point, Spring, you kind of run out of room. This is what the Avs lineup looks like right now. Nathan MacKinnon in the middle of Arturi Lehkonen and Marty Necas. Brock Nelson, 6'4", 215 pounds, in the middle of 6'4", 215-pound Valerian Nichushkin and elite puck mover Jonathan Drouin. Your third line as it stands right now. Casey Middlestat in the middle of Joel Kiviranta and Ross Colton. Jack Drury is your fourth line center in the middle of Logan O'Connor and Jimmy Vesey or Parker Kelly. And right now, the healthy scratch is Miles Wood. That's a healthy scratch on this team, right? Remember the days when Ben Myers was playing playoff games? Because I remember those days. And then your D-core right now is Cale Makar, who just set an NHL, or rather an Avalanche record, and was the first D-man to have 6 points in a game since Hall of Famer Paul Coffey, as Connor McGahey just told us a handful of minutes ago. He's paired with Devon Taves. Ryan Lindgren is your second pairing left side defenseman with Josh Manson, which brings two guys who love to kill you in front of the net. And then you have Keaton Middleton and Sam Girard as your final pairing. There's some room to help out there on the back end in that final pairing, maybe they make another deal.
Speaking of Keaton Middleton, I mean, I'll throw it in here real quick. He damn near scored his first career NHL goal.
Yeah, what a shame.
With about 4 seconds to go in the second period. Just a desperation shot with the clock winding down, and you could see some bodies kind of hitting each other in front of net, and they ruled on the ice goaltender interference. Ross Colton runs into Alexander Georgiev. Although, I mean, look, I think Ross is cutting atop the crease, and he gets pushed from my lens. My eyes say that Ross gets pushed into Georgiev. Avs were up 5-1 at the time. Now I know if you lose the challenge, San Jose goes on the power play. You're starting the third period on the kill, but you're up 4. That game was over. Keaton Middleton may never score in his NHL career.
Oh, don't put that juju on the guy.
Well, is that what we're doing? Are we doing Keaton Middleton as your 6D, or on that third D pair with Gerard, or is it Malinsky? Because Keaton Middleton, look, there was a play tonight where there's a puck being kind of brought to safety, passed up towards the blue line, and Keaton Middleton, I think a good defenseman, even though it's on the back end of the blade, keeps that puck in the zone. Middleton can't do that and has to go on the skate of shame to go retrieve that puck all the way down on the other end of the ice. I'm not sure. I like his physicality, but from a skill standpoint, I mean, if we're really going to go for this thing and we're going to shore up every single spot, that's what the Avs are doing right now. They are shoring everything up. Then 6D is important.
So as of right now, with 50% salary retained, and that's probably the reason why this was so expensive, right? First rounder, conditional third, and again, the third rounder only goes to the Islanders if the Avalanche both win the Stanley Cup this year and Brock Nelson plays half of those playoff games. So the Avs have to win. And you know what? If they win, I don't give a damn what you gave up, right? It's automatically worth it if you gave up a first and a third to confirm the Stanley Cup championship back in 2022. That's just the way that sports work. You win championships and it doesn't matter what you give up. Now, if you don't win, then you can start to question whether those trades were smart or worth it in the first place. But if you win, screw it. I don't care about the third. The first goes automatically. It's likely going to be a 2027 first round pick because there's a condition on the 2026 that is in Philadelphia that's top 10 protected. So the Avs would essentially have to lose out for the rest of the year for that pick to fall into the top 10. And then if it was in the top 10, the Avs retain it. And then it would slide to the next year. So Philly gets the first rounder in 2027. And then the first rounder that they just sent to the Islanders would slide all the way to 2028. So that's the crazy scenario in which the first rounders don't actually go. Philly gets this year's, and then the Islanders get next year's. Do we follow?
Yeah. We just had DMAC on, and the vibes are good. The players are happy. You want to know why the players are happy? Why they don't care at all about Cal Ritchie, even though they played with him a little bit to start the season. And I'm sure that the scout in Nathan McKinnon was like, man, I like the makeup of this Cal Ritchie. Sure, that's fine, but Nathan McKinnon has been beating his body up all season long to try to win a Stanley Cup right now, right? These players are taking pucks to feet and thighs and to the face. They are getting hit. They are putting their bodies on the line to win a Stanley Cup right now. They don't care at all about Cal Ritchie. They don't care at all about the 2026 or 2027 first round pick. They are laser focused on trying to win a Stanley Cup right now, and this trade helps right now.
Spring, I know they didn't watch Kyle Keefe sit down with Gabe Landeskog before this game. I know the Avs weren't sitting in the locker room watching that. They'll eventually watch it. And I know that they've likely been talking to Gabe about, hey, how'd that go? He's been around the rink. He sits down. I'm sure they saw that, right? Because that was filmed very, very recently. there's probably a thought process in the back of their minds, especially the guys who have been here. Lecky, Nichushkin, McKinnon, Taves, Makar. All of those guys looking around going, well, Gabe never got a second chance. We all thought we were here for the next 10 years. We all thought we were going to be playing with him. We don't know if he's coming back. And obviously, if you guys watched that earlier this evening, Gabe is, he's not giving any guarantees, but he says he is going to work until he can get back into this game. So hopefully we get to see him play again, maybe as early as this playoff run, maybe not. I think it's a very sobering fact for all of them to look at their buddy, who is just 32 years of age and one of the most in-shape, chiseled people on the planet right now. And they look at him and go, if we don't win now, what are we doing? Like our career could be a freak accident away from being over. They want to win now. They don't give a damn about those picks. Once again, fuck them picks. Fuck them prospects. Win cups now.
There are no guarantees. I mean, yeah, Gabe Landeskog is the ultimate example that there are no guarantees. You know, look, I understand trading Mikko Rantanen at the deadline, or not at the deadline, really, a couple months before the deadline. But I understand trading Mikko Rantanen because they didn't think they could come to term, and damn, Mikko Rantanen honestly might not be able to come to term with anybody, to be honest with you. But the Avs did what you would say is the prudent thing from like a long-term investment, from a sustainability, from a flexibility standpoint, in acquiring win now assets in Natchez and Drury, and, you know, a second and a fourth round pick, you know, getting value, getting not losing Mikko for nothing and getting a good and fair market value. On the flip side of that, there are also subsequent moves that are very much so win right now, because absolutely nothing is guaranteed. Brock Nelson will just look. Mikko was a special case because, like I said, this dude might not be able to. I don't know what's going on with his agent. I don't know what is going on. I will be fascinated to see what his final number is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing. And he's hell-bent apparently, or maybe it's his agents driving this. You know, they think they can get $14 million. My guess is he's probably going to get something like 12.5. Something probably that he actually would have already gotten had he just stayed here. But guess what? Those are large numbers. Whether it's 12.5 or 14, those are large numbers. Natchez is $7 million. Brock Nelson is $6 million. They got Lindgren down to $2.5 million. So they were more prudent on the guy that was going to take up like 10+% of your salary cap, whatever it is, but a hefty chunk. And they were more aggressive on more affordable players, who they also might be able to extend them all at a number that will be similar to what the price of Mikko would have been just by himself.
You know who kind of excites me right now for the Avs spring? And it's so funny. I keep thinking back to this Rantanen situation and going, is this actually going to net him the most amount of money? And is that actually what he wants? Like, does that player really want to be in Dallas for the next 8 years, playing against his best buddies every single, like 4 or 5 times a year, and then into the playoffs? Also, the other thing that I have to, like, I'm pissed off the NHL because as of right now, Dallas or Colorado, the season is over for one of those two teams. Legit Stanley Cup championship contenders. You told us at plus 700, the Dallas Stars are one of 2 Western Conference teams that lead the entire NHL in odds to win the cup. The Avs just after that in plus 900. I can't believe that one of them are going to be gone by the time April's done.
Yeah,
you have to go through one. You have to go back to 1 through 8.
Mikko, you know, clearly, or at least very much so appearing to not being in the best of headspace since the shocking trade. I mean, he was shocked. Yet is it his agents driving all of this?
It's got to be, man. It has to be.
why has Miko put himself at the mercy of his agents? And I understand, especially, the strictest, the most business oriented of agents is going to want to get every single penny that the agent possibly can, because it looks good on the agent's resume, and also the agent gets more money because it's a percentage-based fee. So the more money I can get my client, Miko Rantanen, the more money I get. And I don't know if his agent is just selling him on money. It's all you maximize. It's money. It's money. You got to get that Draisaitl money. But yet Miko seems to be having some culture shock. He's a little distraught. So there is a massive disconnect going on here. And will that go away? Does that go away now that he goes to the Dallas Stars?
Again, this is all rumors that Dallas and Carolina are actually going to make a deal. Originally, it was Elliot Friedman who was the one who reported that. There has not been an official trade made quite yet. We haven't even seen what might be going the opposite direction from Dallas to Carolina if this deal actually does get done. Spring, I have now a thought process. If the Avs don't move Casey Middlestat, because if they want to get like an impact player, whether it's a Marchand or a Brandon Carlo, like that type of impact player on defense or as a winger, you'd have to move big time money out to get him in. They have just south of $1.5 million remaining in cap space. If they don't move a big contract out, this is a player that I've heard a lot of Avs fans kind of chirp on and wonder if they want here in Denver. Luke Schenn just got traded from Nashville to Pittsburgh in a really weird head scratchy move made between two teams who are irrelevant this year. And that's an older defenseman, UFA, who's really cheap. I wonder if you could call Kyle Dubas and ask what the price is for Luke Schenn, because he would fit and you wouldn't have to move anyone. And you know what Luke Schenn is? Luke Schenn's a better version of what Keaton Middleton brings to this team. Physicality, size. He's also a guy who's loved in locker rooms historically, is a leader, has been in this league for a very long time, but he's a better version of Middleton.
Well, that would be the type of move, and that's your defenseman version of last year's Duhaime, last year's Trenton. They're forwards. Luke Schenn, a defenseman. Yeah, if they're not moving Middlestat or Manson or whomever, then they can only make a move for somebody who's, what did you say, $1.5 million in cap space is what the Avs have to deal with right now. Then that's a player who, making a salary like that in the $1.5 million range. Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. And, they had depth at that 6D. We didn't love any of the depth, but it wasn't just Keaton Middleton. It was Middleton, Malinsky's still here. But it was also DeHaan and Shillington. DeHaan and Shillington are both gone. Speaking of that as well, Jimmy Vesey got some time tonight, and I bring him up because he was part of that trade, Calvin DeHaan, the Ryan Lindgren trade, and Miles Wood goes out. Do you think that was just, trade deadlines tomorrow? Let's just get a look at Jimmy Vesey. Let's just see what we have.
I thought you were going to go the opposite direction when you said, oh, the trade deadline's tomorrow. I think it could have been, we need to see what we see in Jimmy Vesey, and also maybe we hold Miles Wood out of the lineup for injury reasons.
Sure, there's that too. He's a very cheap contract, and there could be a team out there, and he's cheap for a few more years. He's got 3-4 years left on his deal, and he's only a $2-ish million cap hit. Miles Wood, man, he had been a good player for the Avs past couple years. I think he's dealing with a back injury this year. It's what kept him out. It might still be bugging him. There could be a team, though, that would look at him as something that they could stash and maybe shut him down for the rest of the season and then he's a good bottom 6 guy for you next year if you can get him healthy and right.
Still waiting on news about Mikko Rantanen. Jordan Schmaltz does tweet out that there's a possibility that Logan Stankoven is part of the deal from Dallas to Carolina.
It's a name that would make sense, but my gosh, he's not Marty Necas. He's 22 years old. He's on a rookie contract. That's not Marty Necas. He's a good little player. Don't get me twisted, but if that's what this deal is centered around on Mikko Rantanen, that is a net negative for the Carolina Hurricanes. And it's a steal for the Dallas Stars. Probably a rental, but a steal. And that's if it's Stankoven being the one of, if not the main piece, because he's a good little prospect. He is. It's an upgrade in a rental sense for Dallas, and this is just an absolute disaster for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Right now, Dallas they do have the prospects to trade for him. They do have the cap space next year to sign Mikko Rantanen. They also have the high draft picks that they would need to trade for this guy. They don't have a first rounder or second rounder this year, but they have a first in 2026, 2027. They have second round and third round picks in 26 and 27, as well as a third round this year. So they have the arrows to go out and get this player. He certainly makes them better. He makes their power play more terrifying. And this year, like, the cap space this year is not an issue, right? If you're trading with Carolina, you're likely asking them to retain as much money as they possibly can to bring him down to a $2.5 million cap hit or something crazy like that for this year. Now the question is, if Dallas does in fact trade for him, what does he sign? What does he sign? I have to bring it all the way back to that. And you said, is his agent screwing him out of this? Does he really want to sign in Carolina? He's reportedly turned down not only offers that got close to 13 million here in Colorado, but exceeded 13 million in Carolina, 13.4 over 8 years in Carolina, reportedly turned down by Rantanen. Does that mean Dallas automatically has to sign him for 8 years and 13.5? Is that what he has to get to? I'm still looking to see what this deal is. I haven't seen anything for sure. I'm looking at Friedman. That's the guy I'm trying to find right now. I haven't seen anything quite yet.
You know what's hurting Mikko Rantanen too? You know what possibly hurt? Because I am sure that Carolina and Mikko had, or at least Mikko's representation and the Carolina Hurricanes have been in discussions about a contract extension. How could that not have been a discussion that they were having every single day? But he goes to Carolina, and I mean, let's see. Since the Four Nations, he has a goal and 3 assists in 7 games. Before the Four Nations, he had 1 goal and 1 assist in 6 games. He's hurting his own cause here. He's asking for north of $13 million or even 13 in and of itself. That makes him the highest paid winger in the league. Draisaitl's a center. Artemi Panarin is the highest paid winger in the league currently. Mikko wants to break that. But you only have 3 goals in 13 or so games? Excuse me, 2 goals?
Yeah, to be a tremendously high-paid winger, you need to be a goal producer all the time. And he was here in Colorado, but he was insulated by McKinnon and Makar.
Like that was part of the deal when he gets traded, whether it shocked him or not, was now you're playing without Nathan McKinnon. Now you go prove that you are this player. And Carolina clearly wasn't willing to just give him. Now maybe they should have. Should Carolina have just should they have just said screw it? We gave up Necas, we gave up a second and a 4th in Drury. who cares how Miko produces without Nathan McKinnon? We invested so much that we'll just give him $13 to $14 million. They obviously did not do that, and were probably bargaining against him, saying, dude, 2 goals in however many games, we'll pay you what your play says you're worth. And now he's a Dallas Star, and you know what, man? We're probably going to go through the same song and dance, is what I'm saying. We're probably going to go through the exact same song and dance.
You're probably right.
His agency wants $13 to $14 million. Miko's production will be below it, and the Dallas Stars will say, well, how can we justify paying you that when your production isn't on that level?
When we traded for you and you lost to your former team in 6 games in the first round.
Which that could be where we're headed.
I see Ryan on Twitch has said, he's Ryan, are you hearing that it's Logan Stankoven in firsts and then Miko signs a $13 million over 6-year deal, or is that what you think might get the deal done? Because honestly, like, Stankoven and 2 firsts with the promise of an extension sounds pretty good. I can't see if that thought process that Ryan had on Twitch has been reported by any of the NHL insiders.
I have not seen anything, and I am continuously.
That's all I'm doing.
I did see.
Half the show, I've been looking off to the side to my other monitor,
Yeah.
just like scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And Spring, as we do that, let's hear from Cale Makar.
You've been part of teams here that have gone all in at the trade deadline and made moves, but have you ever seen anything quite like what the GM has done this season?
No, I mean, obviously this is only my 6th year in the league, so it's not like I'm a seasoned vet, but it's awesome, I think, from our perspective, to see how much faith in us management has, and how much they want to win right now, especially, and they're trying to give us the best opportunity to do that. So haven't really seen the full details of what we did during the game, but obviously I heard we got Nelson and gave up some good pieces, but at the end of the day, he seems like a great guy and awesome player as well. So we're really excited to have him. And but again, it goes back to management. It's exciting to see that they want to invest in this group, and we just got to continue to play well and get better.
That's Cale Makar coming off a game in which he had 6 points and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, and something I want to bring up. We mentioned Gabe Landeskog, and hey, you don't know what your next game holds. You don't know what the future holds. So that's why you trade the first. You trade Cal Ritchie. You go get Brock Nelson. You try to win it. You try to win now. Nothing's guaranteed. Okay, but that's those are takes that we can have following the big trade, the Brock Nelson trade, following the game. But before we even knew that this trade was a thing, just thinking of Gabe Landeskog tonight and watching this game, and knowing that he had the interview with Kyle Keefe before the game, and he's got a docuseries premiering Sunday on TNT. And he had a sit down. He had an interview with Peter Baugh of The Athletic. So he's opening up right now, and he's in the arena obviously tonight talking to Kyle Keefe. And lo and behold, the Avs go out and they score 7 goals. Right? Today was kind of a Gabe Landeskog day. We get a few of these sprinkled in every now and again, where he'll talk to the media. He's back in the spotlight a little bit. He's around the team, and it always seems to juice the Avs up. I was not surprised to see the Avs get out to a quick 2-goal lead, and then early in the second period, boom, they're up 4-1, and before you know it, it's 6-1, and it finishes 7-3 on a day where Landeskog was heavily in the news and around the team and on everybody's mind, and it just fires everybody up, right? But Landeskog, in his interview with Kyle Keefe, he said the goal is still to come back. And he's got this the fact that this documentary is coming out. What do we love? In a documentary or any television show, any entertainment property, what do we like? We like happy endings. And I'm not talking about those happy endings. I'm talking about, literal happy. Okay. We like happy endings. I want to see Gabe Landeskog. That's the team. Gabe said, he was asked, have you envisioned, that moment where you return to the ice? And my gosh, what a scene that's going to be. I mean, that's going to be an emotional scene. But the fact that this documentary is coming out and he's saying that the goal is still to play, you need a happy ending to the documentary. You don't do this documentary before you've announced your retirement if you don't think you're playing again.
That's the overarching thought that I got from Gabe's sit down with Kiefer was he's gonna play. He's gonna play. And I think he's gonna use the playoffs as a test, right? Because the playoffs are a true test of NHL hockey. Can I compete at the level that I need to be a $7 million player on this roster? You can't get that intensity in the preseason. You also can't get that in the regular season because of his contract right now. So you have to almost force it to happen in the playoffs, where this is the only time that you can go test to see if you're back and you're worth the money, or if your knee is going to be able to actually hold up. Remember, I had Mark Mathot, who had a very, I don't know if it was similar, but really close to the same cartilage replacement surgery years ago. Former Ottawa defenseman, Dallas Star, Mark Mathot. And he goes, I came back and I played 9 games and I knew I couldn't do it. Now, Gabe, better player, also like 10, 15 years of medical innovation, changes the game. I think he plays again. I don't know if that means he returns to form, or if that means he only plays 2 games, or if he's the captain for the next 7 years. I 100% agree with you, Spring. You don't sit down and do that, and you don't do a TNT 5-part documentary series without knowing, yeah, I'm going to make it back at some point, right? Because that's the end of the road there. Speaking of roads, Brock Nelson played at War Road High in Minnesota. Famously, right now, the Minnesota State Hockey Championships are happening at Xcel Energy Center. My question, what number does Brock Nelson wear when he comes to the Avalanche? Because he can't wear the number that's hanging up behind
right?
you. No, he wears 29.
29, okay.
So he can't wear 29. He can't do the Sakic thing when Joe Sakic played for Team Canada and then flipped it over to 91 so that he could give Steve Yzerman number 19 on Team Canada.
Oh, he's
so
33 years old. That's what I was thinking.
He can't wear either one of those numbers. What does he wear? Does he wear 9? Does he take it away? The first guy since Evan Rodriguez to wear that number here in Colorado, does he wear number 9? Does he wear Matthew
9?
Shane's? Oh, no, you're right. You're right. Zach Parise did wear 9. I apologize. Does he wear 3? Because that's what he wore at War Road. He wore number 3 as a centerman.
What about 91, New Nazem Kadri? Is that the ticket?
I could see 91. Could he wear 2?
Yeah, centers don't really go with the
forward that you saw 2.
Centers don't really go with the single digit, certainly lower single digits. Yeah.
Those are you really don't see them, man. You normally see D men wear those. 9 would be good. I love a forward wearing 9 for some reason. It just gets me going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I really need this Mikko Rantanen stuff to happen.
How about he wears
holding off ending the show because I'm hoping that something's going to happen like concrete with Mikko.
How about Brock Nelson wears number 56? Was that Curtis McDermott's number? 56.
56 was Curtis McDermott. Kane says, oh, yeah, Will Smith and the Sharks wore number 2. You're right.
How about he wears 56 because he looks like he's 56 years old? Brock Nelson, I am older than Brock Nelson. I am a year older than Brock Nelson. And Brock Nelson is silver foxing the hell out of this thing. He actually kind of went a little viral during the Four Nations for like his photo, his his team photo for Team USA. And I'm like, who's this old man? Look, there's a lot of 33-year-olds who do not look as advanced as Brock Nelson. But he is actually in the prime of his career, and he's playing some of the best. He's playing the best hockey of his career over the past few years. I mean, 37 goals 3 years ago, 20 goals this season. Has been averaging about 35 goals over the past few years. He's playing the best hockey of his career. He's unheralded. So we'll bring it back around as we wind this show down. Brock Nelson is really the story of the night, and we thought Casey Middlestat was the answer. Is this the answer at 2C?
He's certainly a more established player. You know who Brock is. When you traded for Casey, it was first round draft prospect who has shown flashes of can be top 6 center, rather top 2 line center, top 6 forward in a place where guys don't thrive. And that's Buffalo. That's where hockey players go to die. They can't figure anything out. It's such a shame because I love that city. But that's not going to work. He is a known asset. So I would like to say, yeah, he's the answer because you know what you're getting out of him. This isn't a young kid that hasn't had his time to flourish. He's flourished in a system where, like, offense doesn't exist. Offense, if you're an offensive player, Lou Lamoriello wants to choke it out of you. Like, he still thinks he wants to run the 2003 New Jersey Devils, and that guy produces, right? That guy's like a 40-goal scorer, as you said earlier on in the program, seemingly an hour ago. You know who he is. And I do think he's the answer. I do think that they will look to extend him for a decent period of time. I've been looking up images of Brock Nelson wearing jerseys. That's kind of like what I'm doing now. This is where my brain is. He's worn 23 and 21 for Team USA in the past, and those are also jerseys that he can't wear in Colorado.
He'll figure something out, and hopefully it's a hot seller.
Oh,
there
Melinda
we go.
Crushes it.
There we go.
What about him coming in and taking number 96?
Hey, he could wear Juuso Parsonen's number 16. That's available now. But yeah, 96 would be hilarious, especially with that would be 2 96s on a collision course in the first round of the playoffs. As Mikko Rantanen could be Dallas Star as well.
All right, Spring. I don't think it's going to happen before we get out of here. So we could stay up and nothing happens, and this trade gets finalized at 11 a.m. tomorrow. So final thoughts on tonight. Final thoughts on the game, if you have any. Again, it was a historic night. Alexander Georgiev looked like who he was when he was with the Avalanche. He was not good. The Sharks suck. The Avs are good. That's kind of the story of the game outside of a historic night from Cale Makar.
Well, I thought they were cup contenders before, but it was more of that just get your ticket to the dance. You got Nate, you got Cale. As long as Val is healthy, as long as Lecky's healthy, your key guys, and you got the goaltending. You got Mackenzie Blackwood. Maybe this was, and it still very well could be a run that is carried by the best goaltender I think they've had in this window, and that's even more of a reason to be aggressive. You have what I think is the best goaltender that you have had in this entire window, including Kemper in the Cup. I think Blackwood's the best of the bunch. And now adding Brock Nelson, and I agree with you, Raj. I mean, on paper, it's Kadri, it's proven, it's, they should have just solved 2C officially and firmly, we think. So now you're not just, hey, you can win the Cup. No, you're one of like the 4 favorites now. You're one of the true 4 favorites to win the Cup. And, my other final thought is, is Chris McFarland addicted to trading? Does he go to bed at night?
It is a rush, isn't it?
Does he dream about trades in the offseason, next season? Because they're running out of assets now. They are starting to run out of assets. Ilya Nabokov. You got Blackwood locked up for several years now. You got Wedgwood next year. He'll keep wheeling and dealing if it's necessary. Ilya Nabokov, you're on notice. Mikhail Gulyayev, you're on notice. The 2029 first-round draft pick, you're on notice. I mean, Chris McFarland will trade you.
An amazing night for Avs fans. Big 7-3 win over the San Jose Sharks. They have now won every single game on this 6-game homestand. They look really good, Spring. And I know I'm not saying they look good because they beat the worst team in hockey in San Jose. They look good because they look good. They look dominant. You said it. You go from hoping you can win a Stanley Cup to after these trades, you almost have to win now, don't you?
They are closer. I think today they are closer. Now they're still. I don't know if they're for sure. I can't say they're on the level of the Cup team. I'll need to see.
I think they are close.
But
dude.
this is as close as they've been since. This is as close as they've been since. And honestly, maybe like I'm telling you,
they have better goaltending.
That goaltending, that actually might be what if you maybe the offense, the skating, all the skaters. Forwards and defense, maybe that's still just a tick better than what they have now, but that might be balanced out by goaltending. It might be pretty on par.
What's going to be a delightful test of this? Saturday evening, 5 p.m., Ball Arena. No, it's not Chicago. No, it's not the dog butt, to steal a term from your guy Nate Kreckman, not the dog butt San Jose Sharks. It is a legit Eastern Conference contender. The Toronto Maple Leafs come to town, and that's your first test. Let's see what it is. Toe-to-toe with a team that I've said for years is built to lose despite winning so many games, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I cannot wait to see it. The trade deadline, it feels like it's done. It ain't. 1 p.m. Mountain tomorrow. I'm going to have Kyle Keefe on my show at 11 a.m. to talk about his sit-down with Gabe Landeskog, as well as the NHL's trade deadline. We will keep you guys posted all day tomorrow on Altitude 92.5 with Moshe Lombardi and Kane in the morning. Myself and Coach Mike Sanford from 10 to noon. PhD from noon to 3. So they'll get you right after the deadline or right before the deadline hits and then right after. And then Nate and Andy will take you guys home on your Friday afternoon. Again, the big news. Yeah, Cale Makar, historic night. Bummer no one talked about it. The Avs make a huge trade. They find their second-line center, and that man's name is Brock Nelson. For Mark Springer, I'm Alex Ryanemi. Can't wait to talk to you guys on Saturday evening. Go Avs.